Hey guys, I'm back. Yeah, it's been a while, but I'm here now. Sorry. Okay, just because I missed Christmas, here's Christmas. Did I do it? James Eugene Carrey is a Canadian-American actor known for his offbeat and zany performances. But I'm sure you knew that, unless you've been living under a rock for some reason. Beginning as a struggling comedian, it wasn't until 1994 when Jim Carrey really broke out into Hollywood stardom. That year, he was the leading man in 3 comedy movies. Ace Ventura: Pet Detective was released in February of that year, followed by The Mask in July and Dumb and Dumber in December. Because of these 3 movies, hype was at an all-time high for Jim Carrey. So much so that there were multiple attempts at making these 3 movies into their own franchises. But ultimately, by the early 2000s, Jim began to divert from comedy altogether, and due to his career shift, it seemed like Hollywood had all but moved on from Jim's earlier projects. That is, until the mid-2000s came around, and both Morgan Creek Productions and New Line Cinema still realized, hey, Jim Carrey's still one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. We could probably make some money off of like spin-offs or whatever. We don't even have to include him. And so Hollywood dug up the coffins and got the defibrillators. Holy sh... What the f... Hold on. And so Hollywood dug up their coffins and got the defibrillators out. Defibrillator. What the f... And so Hollywood got their I'm not even gonna say it. I gotta look this up. This is bad. Why am I even using this word? Okay, I gotta make a point here, guys. Defibrillator. Defibrillator? That's not. I didn't know that was it. You learn something new every day.
Lou here from the editor POV. I don't know why I didn't think of this joke in the moment. Defibrillator? I hardly know her. At least let me take her out to dinner first. I mean, God. Okay, back to the video.
And so Hollywood dug up their coffins and got the defibrillators out. And decided to make a spin-off movie for each of these 3 comedies. And boy, let me tell you, all these movies, they did not do too well. At all. With an average Rotten Tomatoes score of 16% and a total box office gross of just under 100 million, these movies did terribly.
1 haircut later.
Just for some context, the original 3 movies were absolute classics of my childhood. I've seen each of these movies at least a dozen times growing up and never saw the spin-offs because I was afraid they were gonna taint my experience of the original. But today I said, it, I need a new YouTube video, and I thought this could be fun, so why not? Total runtime for this viewing experience is 272 minutes, which is 4 hours and 32 minutes. I am not happy about that, but regardless, I do it for you. Thank you. All right, let's get this show on the road. Dumb and Dumberer. Let's start it now.
He's shit everywhere!
Our movie starts on the first day of high school in 1986. It follows Harry's life and how he's starting school for the first time at 17 after being homeschooled his entire life, which honestly seems a bit too little too late for this kid, but whatever, I guess we gotta have a movie. Lloyd is the son of the school janitor, played by Luis Guzman. Even though these actors look maybe 5 to 10 years apart, like this guy looks like he's fully 26 years old. So Lloyd lives at the high school, but because he is the dumber to Harry's dumb, he has to go and catch the bus. It's here where our 2 main characters meet for the first time, giving Lloyd his iconic look. We also meet the school principal and main antagonist of the film, played by Eugene Levy, as well as Mrs. Heller, the school lunch lady and second antagonist of the movie. These 2 are criminals, and their scheme to rob the school is to make a special needs class so that they'll get a grant from some guy who has a foundation so that they can then use that money to go buy a house in Hawaii. This movie has aged horrifically. Harry and Lloyd are the 2 first students because the plot, and their main homework assignment is to recruit other kids to be in the class. They recruit a guy who has some broken bones, a football player who's showing clear signs of early onset CTE, their bully Turk, a foreign exchange student because she can't speak English. Again, this movie has aged horrifically, I know. Oh, and also Shia LaBeouf is there. Why would Disney let him take a role like this? He shows up and yeah, they recruit him because he's a mascot and they think he's actually half man, half horse because he's wearing part of the horse mascot. So funny. Off. But they all agreed to this class because they won't have any homework for the year, which cannot look good on college admissions. What would your GPA actually even look like after taking a class like this? It ends up drawing the attention of the school journalist and love interest of both Harry and Lloyd. She eventually chases down the school bus on a field trip and soon convinces Harry to come over to her house so they can talk about the class. But the boys obviously think this is a date, so they end up buying chocolates for her. And I'm not gonna get into how this goes, but we end up getting this iconic scene from Bob Saget.
He shit everywhere!
So that's fun. Lloyd eventually stops by to do some damage control, but ends up telling her that he can get access to the principal's office because, again, his dad is the janitor. So they ditch Harry and go there, only to find nothing, so the girl leaves with her boyfriend. Knowing that he played his best friend for a girl with a boyfriend, Lloyd feels sorry for the whole thing, and ends up stealing a treasure chest in the principal's office because he thinks it's the treasure chest of Lloyd's imaginary friend who's a pirate, so he thinks he's gonna make it up to him or something. I don't know, dude. It's that f***ing stupid. This movie, I just want it to end. Harry and Lloyd eventually make up and soon realize that the treasure chest has all the incriminating evidence against the principal in it, leaving Harry and Lloyd to save the day, and they do so by playing one of the tapes on a school parade float during one of their parades. And so the cops come, he gets caught, Harry and Lloyd save the day, Bob Saget does another joke.
Harry.
And that's it. That's the movie. We're done here. Hooray! Okay, so that was Dumb and Dumberer. Yeah, man, it's not good. What did you expect? Honestly. The first thing that jumped out to me in this movie was the absolute all-star cast behind it. The guy who played Lloyd is Eric Christian Olsen, who was in a bunch of other comedy movies in the mid-2000s and was on like 300 episodes of NCIS. And honestly, he did a pretty good job as Lloyd Christmas. He had all the mannerisms down. He had the whole, you know, essence of Lloyd. You had Eugene Levy as the school principal. Mimi Rogers was Harry's mom. Shia LaBeouf was one of the students. That was pretty crazy seeing him. Bob Saget probably had the most iconic moment. But again, this movie has aged like milk. I mean, it is insane what they got away with. You got some racism, you got some homophobia, you got some ableism. That's like the big three. That's like the 2008 Boston Celtics. But when I was watching this, I felt like I wasn't watching a Dumb and Dumber movie. It just felt like I was watching any mid-2000s comedy movie from that time. Because you look at the original and the sequel, and they're both road trip films. They have like a goal to get to some place. And in this movie, it was just them aimlessly going around being idiots. Also, the jokes in this one just weren't that funny. There's one joke early on where Lloyd says, "Oh, Marco Polo invented the swimming pool." It was so stupid. The chocolate scene is just, I'm not gonna talk about the chocolate scene.
He shit everywhere!
I'm sure me at 14 would have loved that, but you know, I'm 25 now, so it just made me cringe. Also, the scene where they get slushies, just, it's not funny. Like, they get brain freezes, and so their face becomes numb, and it's so gross, dude. But I think one of my biggest problems with this movie is that Harry and Lloyd are just unlikable people. At least in the original, I could root for them because they had been down on their luck with various jobs. And so when they go on that road trip, you actually root for these two. But in this one, it's like I couldn't root for them at all. In fact, they're both kind of shitty people, especially Lloyd. I mean, he straight up assaults Shia LaBeouf out of nowhere. That wasn't nice. I give this movie like a 3 out of 10. I did like the performance of Lloyd, but that's about it. It's bad. It's very bad. I want to move on with my life at this point. All right, next up is Son of the Mask. Now, if I'm being completely honest, this is the one I am the least excited for and most scared of. And obviously the Rotten Tomatoes score is abysmal, so let's just rip this band-aid off while we can so I can move on with my life. An hour and 34 minutes. Good God, I am not happy about that.
Yes, but it's a good fake.
Our movie begins in a museum on a rainy night. Here, this curator guy is talking to a group about Norse mythology, particularly Odin, who's like the dad of everything, as well as Loki, the god of mischief. Loki steals the mask only to find out that it's a fake. The real mask ends up with a dog who then takes it to his owner in Fringe City. It's here where we meet our main character, Tim, a cartoonist in the town of Edge City. Tim has a wife who just wants a kid. But because Tim isn't where he wants to be in his job, he doesn't want to start a family just yet, which I guess makes sense, but the more you learn about this guy, the more you realize, yeah, this dude is kind of just an immature creep. Like your wife's trying to talk to you about family plans and taxes and he's just passenger princess at 33 years old playing Mario Kart for the Game Boy. Like, you gotta grow up at some point, dude. After his dog chews up his Halloween costume, he decides to take the mask to a party for his job and ends up saving the whole thing by just being this weird guy with a weird dance number. But other people think it's cool, I guess, because he ends up getting promoted. And because of that, he decides to have a kid, which was heavily implied after the party. So hopefully none of those powers from the mask transfer over to your kid, right? Oh God. Oh God, that's way worse. That's way worse than I thought. Oh. Ew! Meanwhile, this whole time Loki has been looking for the mask. So Loki ends up disguising himself around town, checking other babies to see if they have the mask powers, which is a really weird concept in itself. It's a real shocker why this movie did not make its money back. What do you mean people won't pay to see some dumb bullshit like this? Loki eventually gets to Tim's house, does not suspect Tim's baby of having the mask powers, despite the house looking like this, and also Tim looking like this. I mean, come on, dude. But Loki eventually comes to his senses and figures out that, yeah, Tim's baby is the thing he's looking for, leading to a back and forth cat and mouse chase. The dog also wears the mask at some point and has this like weird Tom and Jerry rivalry with the baby. It's so f***ing stupid, dude. Loki eventually returns and takes the baby. Tim and his wife eventually chase Loki down and have a battle with him. But when they realize they're both too evenly matched, they just say, okay, let's put the baby in the middle and see who he crawls to. And that's literally how the fucking movie ends, dude. I'm not even making it up. Tim eventually apologizes for being a shitty father, so the kid chooses him. Obviously, I mean, why would he go with Loki? Why would a baby pick a random man he's only known for maybe 15 minutes? So Loki's lost, and Odin ends up berating him some more. But Tim comes up and he's like, hey man, chill, you know, I'm a father too, but you gotta love your son regardless, so, you know, chill the fuck out. And then Odin's like, you know what, maybe you are right, mortal human, let's go. And that's it. That's the movie. The end. What, you wanted more? Because I didn't. Alright, so that was Son of the Mask, 2005. Was it bad? No. It was terrible. First thing I gotta say about this movie was that it was one of the ugliest things I've ever seen in my life. The art design is so butt ugly, dude. Who thought this was a good palette of colors for your movie? And this isn't like the first movie from that time that's in the similar vibe. You know, you had Cat in the Hat and then Garfield 2004. What kind of drugs were movie producers on at that point where they thought, yeah, this is a good idea for kids movies. This isn't completely disturbing and won't scar children for 20 years. That's not what's gonna happen. It felt like at least 80% of this movie was computer generated and it all looked terrible. There was so much, mid-2000s CG in this movie that I couldn't help but be grossed out the entire time. And look, I'm not one to, hate on child actors or kids in movies, but, that baby. Every time that baby came up on screen, I was prepared to be disturbed. There were just so many gross out scenes. It's like, why even include this? I'd say the worst offender was when Loki turns the nosy neighbor into an actual nose, shoots up a bunch of snot onto the ground. That was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in my life, and I've been on LiveLeak. Our main character Tim just isn't likable in any way, and when he has a kid, he's just neglectful of it. Tim only wears the mask twice in the entire 90-minute runtime of the movie, which I thought was really lame. It was mostly about the dog and the baby's rivalry with each other. Tim's descent into madness was probably the best part of this movie. It was like genuinely disturbing at points. Like honestly, someone should just re-edit this movie into a horror film. Overall, I hope I never have to watch this movie again, and if I could, I would get it erased from my memory, Eternal Sunshine style. Another Jim Carrey reference. I didn't even mean that. Holy sh**. 1 out of 10. Up next, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective Jr. Ace Ventura, Pet Detective Jr. That's not how the title's supposed to be, right? Like, do they not know the Junior's supposed to go after the Ventura? Why is the title like that? How did they get that messed up? Really? Let's just get this started, because holy shit, I've been here for at least 3 hours. I feel like Tim in the last movie. I'm not doing well.
It's Ventura with a V, as in victory.
The movie starts with Ace Jr. saving a rat at the zoo, only for his mom to chastise him, who just so happens to work there. Anyways, this 12-year-old goes to a Florida high school for some reason, and works as a pet detective for the other students at his school, promising to find everyone's missing pets. So he starts putting flyers around town, and he causes like a 5-car pileup and litters across his whole neighborhood. This kid is actually a problem. While this happens, a panda at the zoo Ace's mom works at is stolen in the middle of the night. Very similar to Snowflake in Ace Ventura 1. Yeah, no, that's cool. Just bite the whole plot of the first movie. Anyways, Ace's house gets actually raided by FBI agents, but essentially his mom is suspect number 1 in the missing panda case because she had access to the enclosure, which I don't know how this 45-year-old woman is going to be able to hide a full-grown panda bear in her 1-story Florida home. Whatever, you guys are doing the casework, not me. Because of this, Ace is on the case, and the next morning he wakes up with that classic Ace Ventura hair, but he just ends up looking like Tucker Carlson. Nah, I'm just kidding. Josh Peck looks great here. The first person Ace questions is Neville Papperman from iCarly. He ends up telling Ace that a scientist his dad fired was the one who stole the panda, and that the guy works at the Dinosaur Fossil Museum, so he decides to go there. However, he discovers that the guy only wants to save ugly animals, so he has no real reason to steal a panda. But regardless, Ace and his friends get caught. But to save themselves, they make their getaway on Heelys. I love it, do you not? Also, Ace defends his mom in court and ends up making an O.J. Simpson joke. Like, I'm not even kidding, that actually happens. What, you don't believe me? Watch it.
If the footprints don't fit, you must acquit.
I told you. They end up following some more cases of missing animals and end up tracking a horse down to Neville Papperman's house. And after Ace sneaks in, he soon finds all the animals being hidden in the horse stables. So Neville's dad gets arrested in front of everyone. Ace saves the day. He becomes the man. Okay, we're done with this movie. Thank God.
I watch this movie every day before I emotionally abuse my wife and kids. 5 stars.
All right, Ace Ventura Jr. I'm gonna be honest here, I think that was the best of the three. I'm not even joking about that. Granted, that's not a high bar to cross, but maybe it was because this is the last out of the three and I was just excited to get this day over with. This movie felt more like a victory lap in comparison to the other two, so spirits were higher. But still, I think this one actually works in a way because it knows what audience it's playing to. The other two were too immature for adults, but too mature for kids. This movie was simply a made-for-TV kids movie, and it played to kids, so I can respect it for that. At least it knew what it was. Some things that were a bit confusing to me was why was this 12-year-old kid at a high school? Is that just how Florida schools are? Because honestly, that actually checks out for that state. Also, Ace's mom keeps telling him that he needs to stop being a pet detective like his dad, but you're probably enabling him a bit by letting him eat his dinner out of a dog bowl that you custom bought for him and got printed out like that. Like, you're not helping his case. Honestly, I really did like the Heelys chase scene. That was the most 2009 thing I've ever seen. If anything, this movie's a period piece. Also, that panda enclosure cannot be safe. All it takes is one 8-year-old to fall over and they're done. 4 out of 10. All right. So I'm done. Feel like I wasted a whole day, but at least I got a YouTube video out of it, right? That's something. Well, guys, what did we learn today? I know what I learned. I learned that I'm sad. I guess that's more of a feeling than a lesson, but you know what I mean. But really, though, I'm sad that some of my favorite movies ever were tainted by greed. Greed from these production companies simply because they knew they could cash in on Jim's name alone. They didn't even have to hire him. It's just like the whiff, the scent of Jim was enough to greenlight these projects. And they were all terrible. They were all failures, so lesson learned for those production companies, I guess. We all learned lessons here today. Jim was the heart and soul of all three movies. None of these movies work if Jim doesn't fully commit to the bit. And that's why he's so successful. It's why all three of these movies were so successful and turned him into the star he is now. And without him, it's just a soulless cash grab, which is not fun. This ruined my childhood. But ultimately, I think it's best not to look at the greed that followed these movies, but instead to just look at these movies for what they are. Some really good comedies that shaped an iconic career. I've been Lou Ryan, and thank you for watching. Bye!